Everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 1111 Matrix Code Revealed. As always, I'm your host, Garrett King. Well, folks, it seems like I'm just finding it more and more difficult to find free time to record, doing the best I can. I'm just incredibly busy right now between my job and just life in general. A few weeks back, we had a remodel, essentially, of our bathroom floor. So that was about a week-long project. They came through and completely took the entire bathroom floor out. I mean, to the point where I could basically just open the bathroom door and look down and see underneath the house. So yeah, it was just a whole restructural thing that they came in and did, and it was about a week long, and took a while to kind of recover from that, I guess I should say. And then once it was all done, there was repainting to be done and all this crap. So just incredibly busy. I apologize for it being a while since the last video that I've done. But please just keep in mind that I'm always researching behind the scenes. So if a video isn't coming out, don't think I've given up. I am always researching behind the scenes. So with that said, I have something that's very interesting and new that I want to show you guys. And it's so odd how all of this came to fruition. I mean, it's bizarre. And what I'm going to show you today, it's most interesting because it seems like the clues for discovering this have been right in front of my face the entire time. Just wasn't picking up on the direction or understanding the instruction, if you will. And you'll see what I'm talking about here in just a moment. But when you start to see this, then it feels like clues that have been given all this time. And it's just piecing those clues together that kind of produces what I'm going to show you today. So, let's just go ahead and get started here. So, I know that I talk consistently about the number 37. It's just one of those numbers. And I have here on the screen, as you can see, significance of the number 37, like why it's such this important number, if you will. So obviously 37 is the value of Jesus in Hebrew ordinal gematria. 73, which is the mirror opposite of 37, is the value of Christ in Hebrew ordinal gematria. We know that 37 times 73 equals 2701, which is the value of Genesis 1:1. And then when you take that number, 2701, and add its mirror opposite, we get 3773. Also, 37 runs up and down throughout the 1111 matrix code. And 37 is the basis of the matrix gematria, as each number is calculated by going up and down by the number 37. So that is important, okay? And it's important to understand why I used the number 37 on this. Now, we know that there are 304,805 character letters that make up the Torah, the first 5 books, okay? And I've done this. This is what's so interesting. I have played around with this in the past and just never picked up on it, okay? I've experimented, as you know, you've seen in my past videos, I've experimented with changing the width of the Bible code matrix. I've changed it to 37. I've changed it to 1111. I've done all these different widths, just trying to get it figured out in a sense, or trying to get it figured out. One of the things that I discovered, and I've talked about this a while back, is that with 304,805 characters, the matrix can be divided into 5 equal rows of 60,691 characters, I believe. Let's just double check that. So 304,805 divided by 5. Yeah, so 60,961 characters. So that means 5 equal rows of 60,961 characters. Now, using the number 37, changing the width of the Bible code matrix to 37. That means 37 characters going across on every single line. One of the things I didn't notice, because I was always looking towards the top, but when you scroll all the way down to the bottom, this is where things get interesting. So, changing the width to 37, you wind up with 8,237 equal rows of letters that are, 37 characters wide. The final row, 8,238, has one spot missing at the end. Okay, I say missing, but there's one empty spot at the very end. And you'll see this in just a second. And I'm looking at this, and I'm like, seriously, there's only one spot? Like it to me, it felt like, okay, if this is the word of God, and we know the number 37 is running throughout this entire thing, the Bible, as well as the 1111 matrix code, and again, this being the word of God, having 8,237 rows of 37 characters, and then one additional row of only 36 characters, that seems imperfect. And this is supposed to be the word of God. It's supposed to be perfection. So that led me on this sort of idea that there is a letter missing. Okay. So let me show you this next screen here. So again, as I just said, 304,805 total letters that make up the Torah, which translates into 8,237 rows of 37 letters, with a final row, which would be row 8,238, having only 36 letters, suggesting, again, that one letter is missing. Now, let me zoom in on this. So if you look right here, okay, this Lamed is the last letter of the Torah. And there's a spot right here. It's just blank. There's nothing there. And again, keep in mind, folks, that all the other rows above it have 37 characters. It's just the last one that seems to, it's off. It's off by one letter. So the question became, what's the missing letter? Okay. I think, again, and this could be a stretch. It could be a stretch, but bear with me. So I think the clues have been given to us this entire time. And you're going to see what I'm talking about. The first clue is in this next phrase that you're going to see. And actually, before I get out of here, I just want to again point out, just hopefully you can see this, but right here, this row is 8,238. And we can clearly see there's an empty space here, okay? So the first clue comes in this phrase. The beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning. Now, one of the things I want to point out here is this phrase has the value of 1111. Okay, this is one of the very first things that I talked about when all of this first began, and I began digging into all of this and looking at the numbers and finding these connections and then getting into the whole Gematria side of it. This is one of the first phrases that I found. And again, you can go to gematrix.org and type in the beginning is the end and the end is the beginning and see for yourself. I actually took a screenshot of what it's going to show you on the screen. It has the value of 1111. Okay? But the clue, and it's two clues in this. The first one being the beginning is the end. Okay? And what we technically need to do is just put like a slash here to separate these two phrases, if you will. Okay? The beginning is the end. That's the first clue. The second clue, and the end is the beginning. That's the second clue. Now, the third clue is basically just a reiteration of this, but in a visual way. And the visual way that I'm referring to is the first two numbers that are generated by the 1111 matrix code numbers. Okay? So again, for all of those that have been with me this entire time, you know that it all started with 333 and 1111. Multiplying those two numbers together gave us 369963. Then the instruction was to add 1111 to it, and we get the new number. Okay, the very first number, 371074. Then the instruction was to add 369963 to this number, and then every new number that came up. Okay? But in doing so, in these very first two numbers, there's a representation here. And I've talked about this. And we can see this literally taking place in the numbers, okay? Because again, 37, that's the beginning, and it's the end of the second number. So that is right there representing the beginning is the end, okay? And then the last two numbers, 74, are the beginning of the second number. So that's the representation of, and the end, 74, is the beginning. But something was overlooked in a sense. The simple fact that the number 37 is at the beginning and at the end, this phrase can be represented in just these two numbers. I say two numbers, it's the same number, 37, but appearing at the beginning and at the end. So we don't even have to look at the number 74. And actually, you're going to see something very interesting here in just a second. But if we look at this and we say, okay, 37 is the beginning, 37 is the beginning is the end. Okay, so 37 is the beginning, but it's also the end. And the end is also the beginning. Okay, so we're just basically going straight across. All right. What really set this clue into motion and helped me understand this phrase is what? Okay, let me ask you this question. So, what is the beginning? Okay. Well, if we look at the Torah, sorry, not the Torah, but the Hebrew alphabet, Aleph, which is the first letter, is the beginning. Okay. And Tav is the last letter. But if we think in terms of a reset, okay, think of it like a circle, okay? So you have Aleph at the top and then it comes all the way around and then gets to Tav and then starts over again with 37. So the end being technically the beginning, it starts over with 37. That's why this number is important. And we're going to see this in just the first letter. Now, when I showed this before, let's see, do I even have it in this? I don't. It was in a different spreadsheet. But basically, I had a line going from 37 to 37, one from 74 to 74, and then from 10 to 10. And then if we put 10 in the middle on each side, it was a representation of the sun. Okay, so that, again, was another clue being given to us. But the clue that's missing is just the simple fact that 37 is at the beginning and at the end of these first two numbers. Now, taking the letter Aleph. Watch what happens. This is the letter Aleph. See how the line in Aleph is just a straight line going from 37 to 37? And 74 comes down and connects, and it comes up and connects. But that line, the lines from 74 to 74, do not connect. I think it's another clue, if you will, suggesting, and you'll see what I'm talking about here, because keep in mind, in this new matrix gematria, Aleph has the value of 37. Okay? Bet has the value of 74. And Bet is currently the first letter of the Torah. But the simple fact that the lines don't meet up is suggesting to me that it should not be the first letter of the Torah. That Aleph should be the first letter. So when we go back and we look at this empty space, and it's telling us the beginning is the end, okay? So it's telling us to look at the end, and there's nothing there. Okay? And then telling us that the end is the beginning. It's telling us that 37, Aleph, should go at the beginning of the Torah. By doing that, folks, it's just one letter. So when you look at this, and obviously I can't get all of this to fit onto one screen, but if we add a letter to the beginning of the Torah, it pushes all the other letters over by one, which means Lamed would now be in this spot right here. And we would essentially end up with 8,238 rows of 37 characters, letters. And it would be perfect. Okay? Now, people are going to be like, yeah, but how can you prove that? Well, let's just look at something. So again, Aleph has the value of 37 in this new matrix gematria. Bet has the value of 74. And again, in this new matrix gematria. And again, this is signifying that 37 is the connector. Okay, it's the beginning and the end. Not 74, not Bet. Now, let me just show you over here. So this is the JLA Tanakh program, and I'm just going to show you. So I'm just going to come over here and put in, I'm going to modify the width. Right now, the width is 35, okay? But we're going to change it to 37, all right? So as you can see, Bet, right here, and it's highlighted, and it's even selected over here, showing you that it is the very beginning. So it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, or the heaven and the earth, as it says here. But let's scroll all the way to the bottom. And I can't zoom in anymore on this, folks, so sorry, but hopefully you can see this. This is the empty spot that I was showing you on the other screen. So again, it's signifying that there's a letter missing. So if we add Aleph to the very beginning and just basically push all these letters over by one, Lamed will wind up as the last letter. Now, this is where the clues start kind of proving themselves and starting to make sense. So by doing this, let's open up Keys to the Bible, because I can actually get this to show up bigger on screen. So, okay, we're going to pull up just the Torah. Okay, so from Genesis 1:1 to Deuteronomy 34:12, and we're going to change the number of letters per line to 37 and hit retrieve. So now you can see it on the screen, and I can actually zoom in about to there and scroll all the way down. Come on. Work with me here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see this, but right down here is the empty letter that's missing. Okay. Now, with Lamed being the last letter currently, if we add Aleph to the beginning, this is what I want to show you, folks. So let's change this to Hebrew. So having Aleph at the beginning and Lamed at the end, you have the name of God, El, okay? Such as in Elohim. So Aleph, Lamed, El, it means God. By doing this, it actually encompasses the entire Torah, the Word of God, within the name of God. Okay, that's a pretty significant thing. But let's start writing this out. Something else unique happens. So let's scroll back up here to the top. So as it is now, currently, the Genesis 1:1 goes from line 1 to line 28. Okay. So let's bring this back up. So we're just looking at, let's see if I can spread this out some. Come on. Work with me here. Stupid brown, whatever. Okay, so I don't know why it's not grabbing a hold of. Okay, there we go. Finally, geez. Okay, so we're just looking at from here to here. I'm going to retype all of this out, putting Aleph at the beginning, and just show you what is going to translate here. Okay, so we already have it set to Hebrew. All right, so we're going to start with Aleph. Now the next letter is Bet. Instantly, it gives us the word Father. Okay? Which is another significant find. Okay? So now we have Father. Now we're going to put a space here and continue this out. And we're going to continue it out exactly the way that it's written without spacing any of the other letters differently. So it goes Resh, Aleph, Sin, Yud, and Tav. Okay. Now, as you can see, it says Father first. Then we have this. The firstborn Father created. The firstborn Father created. Now, keep in mind the Bible code that I found based off of Michael Drosnin's code, where he, it talked about the firstborn Father he came here in a vehicle. And remember, folks, it said the firstborn Father. It's interesting that we're seeing that again here. The firstborn Father created. Now, the next word is Elohim. Now, this is interesting. Now it says Father first created God. Father first created God. And then we have the bridge word, which is Aleph and Tav, which is the beginning and the end. And next it says first God created you. Okay? So think about this, folks. Think about this. So if we were seated on this planet by someone who came from someplace else, this idea is going to upset some people. I understand that. And I'm not saying that this is definitively the truth. I'm just saying, just looking at the clues, okay, what it seems to be suggesting. So we know the first Father came. He came here in a vehicle, okay? And then it tells us that the firstborn Father created God. Now, when you look at the translation of Genesis 1:1, without adding Aleph to the beginning, just as it is currently in the Bible, the translation for the word heaven and earth is actually sky and land. Okay? Sky and land. So the idea that I'm going to throw out is, what if the firstborn Father is a being that came here, meaning the earth already existed? And it's just a simple twist of the translation saying that he created the sky and the land. Well, what if it simply was that he came here or crashed here, and simply where he landed or where he crashed, he staked that area as his own? Okay? The land and the sky above it. He claimed it as his own. Not that he created it, like made it, but that he's claiming this area, okay, as his. It's just an idea. It's just a thought. So if we continue this out the way that it's written, and so next we have the word for heaven. Okay, so now it tells us Father God first created the water. Interesting. And let's just make sure I typed that in there correctly. So, hey, sorry, I screwed up. Okay. So actually it's first, comma, God created the heavens. And then we continue it on with Lamed, Aleph, and Tav. And it's already telling us first God created the heavens and the earth. And we haven't even put the word earth in here yet. It seems to be predicting what we're going to say next. So now we're going to put in the earth. Okay. So the translation doesn't really change. Okay. Before it was in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now it's first God created the heavens and the earth. It's essentially the same telling. But what I find interesting is the translation of what's being said before it completely finishes it out. It's like describing a process, the steps. First, the firstborn father came. He came here. He created or laid claim to the land and the sky above. But then as it was being typed out, it's also said the firstborn father or, created God. So what if this being that came here created the concept of God? Not that he is or was God. He created the concept of God. Now, the reason I say this is because the Bible already talks about how there were already other people here. There was already giants in the land at that time. Okay? So if God first created everything and then he created Adam and Eve and they were the first people, well, who are all the other people that the Bible talks about? They had to have already existed. They had to have already been here. I mean, it really starts to make sense that, again, we were seated here, especially when you look at the scientific records of how old the earth actually is in comparison to the story of the creation. I mean, it doesn't line up. It doesn't add up at all. And the simple fact that there were giants in the land at this time, I mean, all you have to do is look at ancient Egyptian statues and even in other cultures where it literally depicts like what appears to be humans, but beings that are way taller than other humans or beings in the same, artwork or whatever that they created. And why would we just assume that they're doing this for something other than the fact of they're just literally showing us what was exactly and how it exactly was? There were giants at one time. So again, this idea that they were already here is a huge possibility. And that there were already people here. This being, the firstborn father, he just simply came here and staked this area, Israel, this land, as his, and then created the concept of God. Okay? Now, that's not to dismiss the whole idea of our souls and our spirit and all this other stuff. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying any of that at all. I'm just making this suggestion of what if? What if it basically started again with a being coming here and seeding us on the planet? At least this version of us. The people that were already here, we have no idea what they were like. Who knows? Don't know. It's just an idea. It's something that makes sense now in a way, because again, this being the word of God and adding Aleph to the beginning, Lamed is already at the end, and having this entire text now encompassed within the name of God. But could this firstborn father been, in a sense, misrepresenting himself as a God? Not that he was the actual physical creator of all of existence. I don't know. It's just a thought. It's just a thought. Now, very quickly before I end this, I want to show you one other thing. So for anyone that has any doubts about this new matrix gematria that came about by applying the 1111 matrix code numbers to the Hebrew letters, I'm going to show you that there is a much deeper connection between these the 1111 matrix code gematria and just the 1111 matrix code being applied in this way. Okay, so let's close this out. So I just want to show you that in the first word, actually let's go down. And let's just change this so that we're actually looking at the physical text, not within the matrix. So let's just look at the very first word of Genesis 1:1. Okay? This is in the beginning. Now let's look at the gematria values of this first word. Now in Hebrew standard gematria, the value is 913. In matrix gematria, the value is 2812. But there's this number over here, and it's called place value. Place value is simply Hebrew ordinal. And what ordinal means is it's the value of each letter's placement within the alphabet. So let's just pull up. Let's go to... Why am I not seeing it? Oh, it's right up here. Durr. Okay. All right, so let's go to this Gematria calculator and let's put in, I have a bunch of stuff here already, but I don't have what I was looking for. So let me do something else real quick. Sorry, I should have been better prepared. Okay, so I'm going to type in the first word as it is currently. So we have Bet, Resh, Aleph, Sen, Yud, Tav. Okay, so literally it translates to Genesis, but Genesis means in the beginning. Okay, so I'm going to copy that word. We're going to come over here to the Gematria calculator. We're going to paste it in. And we're going to change this to Hebrew, and we're going to hit submit. Okay. So as you can see, the standard value is 913, which is what we have up here in this program. The JLA Tanakh refers to it as the common value. But then look directly underneath it. It's ordinal, and it's 76. Okay. 76. And that's what we have here. This program refers to it as place value, and it's calling it place value because of where the letters are placed within the alphabet. So Bet being the first letter, or sorry, not the first letter, it's the first letter of Genesis 1:1, but it's the second letter of the alphabet. So being the second one, it has the value of 2. Resh is the 20th letter, so it has the value of 20. Aleph it's the first letter, so it has the value of 1. Sin has the value of 21 because it's the 21st letter. Yud has the value of 10 because it's the 10th letter. And Tav is the last letter of the alphabet. There's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. So again, it has the value of 22. Add all those up, we get 76. Okay? But here's where the connection comes in. So we know again, the 1111 matrix code goes up and down by the number 37. It's prevalent throughout the Torah, the Bible. But let's look at something interesting. And a connection, literally showing that there was a purpose and a reason for adding the 1111 matrix code numbers to the Hebrew alphabet and creating this new gematria. So again, the matrix gematria is giving the value of 2812 to this first word. If we take that number and divide it by 37, we get 76, the place value. Okay, the same value as Hebrew ordinal. This happens for every single word. So if we were to look at the entire phrase, Genesis 1:1, we know it's 2701. But 2701, but in the matrix gematria, the value is 11,026. The place value is 298. Now keep in mind, folks, these place values were already established. They've already been established for hundreds of years, okay? It's the connection that I'm showing you here between these numbers and the 1111 matrix code gematria. So with it having the value of 11,026, and again, divide that by 37, we get 298, and 298 is the ordinal value. Okay? It's showing us this deeper connection. Now, one other thing, very quickly, before I end this. There's something else with adding Aleph to the beginning of this. So the way it is currently, the value is 2701. That's the value for the entire phrase. But if we add Aleph to the beginning of it, and in Hebrew standard gematria, Aleph has the value of 1. So this phrase would no longer be 2701, it would be 2702. Now, 2702 plus its mirror opposite of 2072 gives us 4774. Now, I ask you folks, if this is not an encoded 1111, because it's a palindrome number, again, just like it is with 2701, adding its mirror opposite, we get 3773. But now we have 4774. It's the same number forwards and backwards. But if we simply split this and look at 4 and 7 is 11, and 7 and 4 is 11. Okay? Is it an encoded 1111? Is it, by adding Aleph to the beginning, is it restoring the balance of the entire Torah that I was talking about in my previous video? Because remember, I showed these dualities and that the number 1111 is a duality. Is it restoring that duality? Furthermore, keep in mind the phrase that I found where it talked about a new version of the book has already been issued. Well, actually, I think it was a new version of the book will be written. I can't remember exactly what it said, but there was also, it translated a different way, saying a new version of the AI has been issued. So simply by adding Aleph to the beginning of this, it technically is a new version of the book. Just strange. One letter can change everything. But let's look at this in another way as well. So this verse in matrix gematria has the value of 11,026. Okay, so 11,026. That's standard. That's as it is without adding Aleph to the beginning. If we add Aleph to the beginning and look at it with the matrix gematria, that means we need to add the number 37 because Aleph has the value of 37 in matrix gematria. So now we add 37 and we get the number 11,063. Let's do that same process where we're going to add the mirror opposite. So the mirror opposite is going to be 36011. And just like we had before, just like we saw before, we now have this split of 47074. Again, that 0 is sort of indicating that break and showing us that 4 and 7 is 11 and 7 and 4 is 11. Again, folks, I ask you if this is not an encoded 1111. And by doing this, it is restoring that balance to the book. Who knows? Who knows? Okay, that's what I've been working on. I'm moving forwards with this. I'm just wanting to move forward and see how this affects the Bible code matrix by having that width at 37. What can be discovered running throughout the book now with this additional letter added and having 8,238 perfect rows of 37 characters? What will be revealed vertically throughout the entire thing? That's the question. That's the question. And that's what I'm going to start digging into and seeing what will be revealed. Okay, that's it, folks, for now. It's going to be exciting to see where this goes. And again, folks, I'm not trying to change anyone's beliefs in God or anything like that when I talk about this idea, this concept that a being came here and seated us on the planet. Okay? I'm not trying to alter anything that you believe. I'm just throwing the idea out there. It makes a lot more sense to think of it in that way when you start looking at the rest of the Bible and things that it talks about. Again, talking about other people already being here, giants already being here and already existing. It just seems to have a more believable, if you will, story of a being coming here and seeding us. Because let me just say this very quickly. When you think about it, let's just say that this being came from a planet that was destroying itself, okay? And this being had the ability to escape and bring with it its DNA or DNA of its kind with it to repopulate someplace else. And you don't want the same thing to happen again, okay? I'm not saying it's right, but what if this being simply did all this, created Adam and Eve through this DNA technology, and then was conditioning them in a sense to believe that he not only created them, but everything around them. And as a means, and I've talked about this before, it's a system of control. That's exactly what would have been happening. He would have been controlling them in this idea that, and setting these rules in place these sort of 10 commandments, if you will, of how to conduct life. I don't know. It can get very deep thinking and going off on this idea. But again, there's something about it. There's something about it that makes sense. And we'll find out, hopefully. I mean, maybe we will or maybe we won't. I'd like to believe, like to hope that we will, and that it will be revealed by simply just sort of slightly changing the structure, adding this first letter, having this perfect, again, this perfect matrix now of 8,238 lines of 37 characters. There's got to be something in there. I just feel it, that there has to be something in there. We'll see. We'll see. All right, folks, that's going to be it for now. Hopefully it won't be as long between this video and the next. I'm doing my best. Just keep in mind, I'm just an incredibly busy person. I wish I could devote all of my time to this and find these things faster. But, you know, I have to work. I have to make money. I have to make a living. It's just life. So, okay, that's going to be it for now. Until next time, I hope you all take care, and we'll talk again soon. Bye-bye.